to encourage this one to be somewhat more collaborative. So I mean, I never have a problem presenting and talking for an hour, but I also love to hear from other people because I think sharing experiences on what you've done and tried that has worked and what you've done and tried that has not worked is also very helpful. So where I'm going to start this today is talking about marketing to a specific neighborhood. I'm actually in the throes of this right now because I have a listing that conveniently is next door to my home. And so it's a very specific neighborhood, and I'm trying to create a really nice amount of marketing to the neighbors of that community. And so I kind of wanted to share too some things that worked and some things that haven't worked that I've been trying, and then hear from you guys if there's things that you've done for a specific neighborhood when marketing a listing. So let me hold on. Still people jumping in. So 1 second. All right. So neighborhood specific marketing. Oh, let me mute. Let me make sure everybody's muted. 1 second. All right. Neighborhood specific marketing. Okay, so not every listing is going to need a marketing campaign to the entire neighborhood, right? There are some listings that that are really desirable, and when priced appropriately, they sell in a weekend, right? So we know that that can be the case. But one thing to leverage, especially if you're interested in continuing to farm or do business in a specific neighborhood, for example, part of the reason I'm so invested in the listing that I have right now is because I live next door. Right. So I want to not only have some really great neighbors move in next door to me, but it's also a really great way to market to the neighborhood in general. So probably the marketing that I'm putting into this specific neighborhood is going to be a little bit different than something that, is priced maybe. So this listing that I have right now is priced at 650, which is a really interesting price point in terms of how quickly things sell and how long they sit on the market. It's just a totally different landscape compared to something that's in like the 350 to 400 range. Totally different. And it's just a smaller pool of buyers. And I knew that going into it. And I also knew that I had a very particular seller because I know this guy. I've lived next door to him for years now. He's tough. He's like, what are you doing? How are you providing value? What are you doing to market the home? He is not someone who would ever be satisfied knowing the listing is on Zillow, and that's where 96% of people are going to see it. And if it's priced appropriately, it's going to sell. That would never fly with him, ever. And I knew that going into it. So I knew that there needed to be a bigger marketing plan in place. And so I did a couple of things, and then I want to share the feedback I have on what I did. So firstly, I went around to each of the neighbors' homes and I put together a little care package. Okay, so I actually have a photo that I should have put in my presentation, but I didn't. I used these nice little black boxes. I created a Whispering Pines magnet because the name of the neighborhood that we live in is called Whispering Pines. So I had the entrance sign like painted and created this little magnet for the Whispering Pine sign that went into this box. And then I also created a letter, attached my business card, and then also put in a $5 gift card to our local ice cream shop. And I walked around the closest 100 addresses around this home and I dropped it off on front porches. Okay. So that's one of the things I did to start conversations because I wanted not only to initiate a conversation, but to also let them know that there was going to be a listing coming up in the neighborhood. And the reality is, I started a lot of conversations of people they knew who wanted to get into the neighborhood, right? So even if this listing doesn't happen to work out for them because it's in this, different kind of price point, there's a list of people who have been like, oh, they always watch really closely to see if something's coming up in the neighborhood because they would love to live, they want to get in here, and listings don't come up very often. And if they do, especially in that 350 to 400 range, there was one down the street that sold, I think, for or right around four, but it sold in a weekend, right? And it had multiple offers. So it's tough, especially in that price point, to be able to get something in that neighborhood. So that's the first thing I did. And I will say it took time. It took hours. It took effort to order the stuff. And I knew the upfront cost and I knew the hours it would take to walk because I walked them around to all the different houses and dropped them off. But the amount of people who reached out after, even just to say thank you, was huge. It was huge. A lot of people were very thankful. And so now I've formed relationships with neighbors that I had not met previously. And I've been in the neighborhood for 3 years and I hadn't met certain neighbors. And so it really opened doors, even just to meeting new people, which was the entire goal. Another thing I did, which is interesting, which I wanted to test because it's not something I had seen someone else do, and so I wanted to test it. So the listing went live last week, Thursday. So it's been a little under a week that it's on the market, and I knew I
Sorry,
wanted to make
Mary,
a
got a question
splash
for
in the
you.
neighborhood with the first open house that I hosted in the neighborhood. So I found a local barista, and there are a few. There are like I want to say the ones that I talked to, no, not everyone had availability, right? So because I waited until like a week before, and so they do book up. But there were three local baristas in the Grand Rapids area that I was able to talk to, one of which had availability for the day. So when I marketed this open house to the neighborhood, I included the fact that they could stop by and even just get a nice handmade coffee drink. And I had the barista set up out in the driveway in front of the home. Um, Now, it did end up that it was a garage sale, our neighborhood garage sale weekend, everyone as well. So there was already going to be increased foot traffic around the area, and I timed that accordingly. So when we were looking at the listing and we were like, okay, when do you want to go live? We know the house has a pool. We want to get it listed when the weather's nice. I knew there was an upcoming garage sale weekend where we're going to have tons more cars driving through the neighborhood than we would regularly. So we wanted to make sure that the sign got in the ground and that we had this open house scheduled while that was going on. And I will say that I do think that this mobile barista that I had set up was a great success. It's not the cheapest marketing effort, right? I'm not suggesting that this needs to be at every open house that you do. But I had 42 people come to get a coffee drink from the mobile barista. I would say about half of them were neighbors, right? That wanted to come, that wanted to check out the home, that wanted to see, and then also get drinks. But in my book, that's 42 conversations that I had that may not have showed up otherwise. Right. So I will say the mobile barista, you have the choice. And again, like use your judgment of when this would be an effective approach, of course. But I knew the open house was going to be, I just knew because of the weekend that it was on that there was going to be a lot of people out, and I wanted to capitalize on that. So I would say that it's depending on how many hours you want them to be set up for. I chose 2 hours of the 10 to 12 spot, which is the same time that the open house was taking place. And also, garage sailors tend to be out like right at 9 a.m. and then it dies after like lunchtime, right? So, like, trying to use the best like 2 hours I could during that time. Um, I do think that it was a success, and it's not something I had tried before. So, um, anyway, so I just wanted to put that out there. There was a lot of like timing involved in why I chose it and what I did and where it was set up and the type of marketing. Now, to get the word out, I in my neighborhood, and you guys may already be a part of this too, but in the neighborhood, there is like this group chat of moms that live in the Whispering Pines neighborhood. So I, of course, texted all of them and let them know that I was setting this up, that I was going to be there, and to tell people that were interested in the neighborhood or that were going to come shop the garage sales to come get a coffee and then walk the neighborhood. So that even just using the friends in the neighborhood as a word of mouth too helped to spread the message out to what was happening. So it's been, let's see, that happened on Saturday. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So it's been 3 days. I haven't sold the listing yet. And I don't know that that open house is going to sell the listing. We'll wait and see. There were a couple interested parties that came through, but what I do know is that the amount of neighbors I got to talk to just from camping out next to this barista at this home was huge. I mean, it was huge. So I definitely think it was worth the money to do it, but using your best judgment, of course. Sorry, I have a question. Um, Let's say you get another listing from that neighborhood. Do you think those sellers will expect the same type of marketing? Maybe that's your plan. So, great question. And I would definitely do it again in that neighborhood because I'm not going to do it for one listing in that same neighborhood and not do it for another. So I don't think it's realistic to say every listing that I ever get and every open house that I ever do will have this. But I live in that neighborhood. So like I want to make a really good impression. So if I did get another listing in that neighborhood, I would do the exact same thing. Yes. Um, I didn't. Sadie, good question. So Sadie asked, do you increase your commission to compensate for the added cost? I didn't. I will tell you that this seller was already trying to nickel and dime when it came to commission anyway. So I knew going into this that any marketing effort that I did, I was not going to like I knew going into it. I made this decision going into it. He was fighting me on the 345. Do you know what I mean? Like he's been fighting every step of this previous retired attorney with his own family of attorneys who've been looking at everything. He pulled his own comps. He had three appraisals that he paid for. Like this is who he is. So I was like, as long as I make my money back and I was able to market to my neighborhood, I call it a win, honestly. So either way, so I wanted to share that I do think it was a successful thing. But I would definitely like because it's my neighborhood, because I'm hoping to like I would love to just like do a little bit of business just where I live because it's so convenient. I would definitely want to continue to make a good impression on the listing. So something that make a big splash. So either way, if you know you have a great listing coming up and it's an area where you're hoping to market yourself further, I do think the mobile barista is definitely worth it. Um, Timed appropriately, of course. But okay, so I wanted to share that. Another thing I'm doing, and I wanted to hear if you guys had done this already. So, have you guys ever created a website? Because I know that a lot of Facebook groups for neighborhoods already exist. Like, there's a very large, like, Forest Hills Facebook group. There's a very large Ada or Cascade Township group. There's a like, there are very large Facebook groups that already exist. And for a long time, I was seeing suggestions of like, well, create a Facebook group. And I'm like, yeah, but everyone's already done that. And these Facebook groups kind of suck. And they kind of die, and not everyone's on Facebook, and people don't see them. And so I don't think that I just don't think that that's not gonna be a needle mover, in my opinion. I was wondering if anyone had created a neighborhood website. So, a website for a particular neighborhood, right? So, whether it's the neighborhood you live in, or a neighborhood you're farming to, or a neighborhood you have a listing in, or where you've sold multiple properties, whatever it is, created a website specific for that property. Has anyone done that? No. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Um, and let me ask you this too. So, have we not done more marketing because in the past listings sold more quickly? Is that a realistic question? Like things tend like I know that the market's been weird the last what 6 to 8 months. It's been weird. It's like I think something's going to sell and it doesn't. I don't know if this is going to sell and it does. Like it's a weird market. But in the past, I mean, even in like 2024. It seemed like into 2025, I would say, but like you listed things and they sold and there weren't as many price reductions, but now things are weird and they've been weird for several months. So I'm just wondering, have we not done as much marketing because things sold easier, but now we're in this boat where like things aren't selling as easily as they used to? So I guess the question to that, and I'm like going round and round about this, is what are you doing to market homes now that you weren't doing a year ago? Anybody? And you're all muted, so if you want to speak, make sure to unmute yourself.
Um, I a couple of things. Brody's Bee or all the bee cafes in the area, Liam's Bee, all of them will do baristas.
Oh,
And kind of
nice.
going to what Jim said, I think when you have a person that's serving coffee that has Down syndrome, that strikes a chord with a lot of people. And I have hired the baristas to come to
Yeah.
open houses before. Um, so if you're looking for something that's kind of charitable, because that is a charitable, that coffee shop runs on donations and stuff. That's an idea.
Yeah.
Um, But like for marketing listings and stuff, I do think that I have had to be more like videos and reels and posting them on Instagram and Facebook and paying to boost them and getting them out there. I've had to spend a lot more money on Meta this year than I have in past years just to get it out in front of people. And I'm trying, I hate uh doing like being on camera. It makes me very self-conscious. I pick myself apart and I'm trying to just like upload it fast and not think about it. But I do think you have to do more of I have had to do more of that with listings that I thought would sell, on the first day and then they sat for a week or so. So I feel like that has changed what I and I'm kind of when I go in to do photos before I would in the last year I didn't really think about it, but now I'm like, okay, I need to get some real footage so I can make a reel. Um, should this not sell in the first few days?
Yeah.
And then
And that's what I've been
pay to
hearing.
boost. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I've been hearing, and that's why I asked. That's exactly what I've been hearing. So, firstly, I didn't know that the bee cafes, and I've been to the one in the East Grand Rapids area, but I didn't know that they'll come and set up a barista. That's even more fantastic.
Yeah,
But
they
yeah,
will actually have one of the
students
special
or
needs
yeah,
kids.
kids. Yeah,
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 and
yeah.
then they bring an adult with them, obviously, but they yeah, and then that is not only, I mean, their receipts are like a charity receipt too. So just
No,
FYI.
agreed. No, that's
Yeah.
wonderful. Um, and I guess too, from that is, have you had sellers push back if something isn't selling because their expectations are, well, this should sell. This should have sold by now. And if it hasn't sold by now, what are you doing to market the home?
Well, and I think, Mary, what you said about expectations is totally on point. So I think now, at least I know for me, when I do take a listing, it is setting the right expectation that the market has changed a bit and, sometimes they're not selling as quickly. So, setting that expectation up front, I think helps too, so that you're not getting a seller who's like after the first weekend, oh, okay, what's going on?
Mhm. Yeah.
I
Um,
also,
sorry,
can I
please.
chime in on that too?
Yeah,
Because I
please.
also think along with that, to piggyback off of Kim, is that it is important to find out what the motivation is of your seller. Obviously, every seller wants top dollar for their house, but what is their motivation for selling?
Mhm.
And how are you actually going to help guide them to say, where we price this obviously matters, the condition matters, the timing matters, all this because you want to get to whatever the next chapter by this time or whatever. Or then there's maybe a seller who's like, I don't care how long it takes. I just want to get this amount of money. So I think understanding the motivation of your seller can also then help your marketing.
For sure. Hey, Rebecca Smith, I see your comment and I'd love if you're okay to unmute. I don't know if you're busy, but I would love to hear because you made a comment about listing the marketing being different for a listing versus marketing to an area that you're trying to farm. Are you there? Maybe she might be busy. Either way, she made a comment that says, I think marketing a listing versus farming a neighborhood is different. I do a neighborhood website to farm. And I agree. I do think that if you have a listing in the neighborhood, it's going to look totally different than if you're just looking to farm an area. I do think those are two different things. Or if you have a listing in an area that you're not looking to farm the area, again, two different things. It just so happened that the listing that I have, oh, wait. No, she's jumping back in. It just so happens that the listing I have is also in my neighborhood, and so I wanted to do both, so it just kind of worked together. But yes, I do think that
Sorry, I'm
oh,
here.
okay. No, thank you. I wanted to hear how you would market a listing differently versus the marketing you do for a farming to a neighborhood where you don't have a listing.
So I had never thought about a neighborhood website till you brought it up just now, and it just got all my ideas flowing.
Good.
That I live in Detroit in a historic district, and there's a couple historic districts here in the city that it would be really cool to have a website that just posted all of the listings in the specific historic neighborhoods. And then do like, I don't know, QR codes to like, well, at our neighborhood garage sale recently, I put up a for sale sign, but instead of the for sale, it was like, ever wonder what it takes to live in historic Detroit? And then there was a QR code where they could sign up, but have
Mhm.
that QR code go to like a website where people could, I don't know, subscribe to get those listings sent to them, maybe an email. It just got me thinking like, yes, things here sell so fast that I don't have time to create a website for a listing, but it would be a great way to farm.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So,
I agree. And I think that every time I don't know, the last 8 or so years, it's been like, at least people are like, create a Facebook group for your neighborhood. And I'm like, those suck, you guys.
yeah.
Neighborhood Facebook groups suck. They are terrible. I'm not going to one for anything aside from like what the ones in my neighborhood are like, oh, there's a cat. Whose cat? Like, here's a photo of a cat. Whose cat is this? It's on the corner of this and this. This is not helpful for me. Like, yes, I hope you find the cat's owner, but like this group is worthless. So that's why I was thinking like, okay, website's better. And then say you create the website. So say you it's your neighborhood or it's a neighborhood you want to farm or whatever. You have this URL, you've built the website. How are we getting the word out about this website? Where is this website going? Where is this URL living? Right? So how are we, because like you can create a website and that's great. But if you don't push people to it, if people don't know about it, then don't create the website in the first place. So how are we getting people to this website? So my thinking, and I'd love to hear too, if anyone has any other thoughts about this, is my thinking is I'm going to put the URL for the neighborhood website on a rider, and it is going to sit on top of my listing. So that's step one. Right. So anybody that drives past in the neighborhood is going to see that there's a neighborhood website associated with this listing now. And then there will be a feature page on this neighborhood website just for this listing too. Right. But the other thing is mailers to the neighborhood. Right. So I still think that print mail can be great when done well and when done consistently. So if you know, okay, this neighborhood has 150 homes, what do the mailers look like if I do it on a quarterly basis? But really, even just an intro to let people know the website's been built, the website's been created. It's a resource for them about the neighborhood, would probably be the first mailer that I would send. And then anything I send going forward, of course, would have that URL. I will also go in now. Conveniently, the another realtor that lives in my neighborhood is the one who started the Facebook group for my neighborhood, which tends to be the case, right? So she's kind of restrictive about what she'll let me post. So like I have to submit my post and then admin has to approve it before anything shows up there anyway, which, if you didn't start the group, that's kind of your hands are tied a little bit. But I will also post to that group to let them know that I've created this website. And then even honestly too, even just as I'm out walking my dog, as I'm having conversations with neighbors, my mom group chat for the neighborhood too, all of that are places where I'm going to let people know that this website exists now. The tricky part about a website is there has to be content being added for people to come back to visit it, right? So if they go to a website one time and there's a good amount of content, and then they go back to it again and nothing has changed, and it's the exact same website with the exact same content, then there is no need for them to ever come back to this website again, right? Because there's no new information there. So there has to be something being added to this website that gives them a reason to come back and visit. So that's kind of why I think community events, right, which seems basic, but community events, upcoming things happening in the neighborhood, what just sold in the neighborhood, what's listed in the neighborhood, things that are actually happening in real time or that can be changed, so that people are incentivized to come back and check the website again. So I think getting that URL created, you can also, of course, promote that URL across social media, right? And so people might even just want to check it out. I mean, because my whole thinking right now is like I would be mailing to the neighborhood, I would be telling the neighbors about it, I would be, those types of things. But it's important for people outside the neighborhood to see this website too, because we want them to want to live there, right? And see what it's all about. So how are we spreading the word to people outside of the neighborhood as well, to show them how great it is, to live there? And so either way, all of these things are kind of happening as I'm going through this listing of my own and trying to figure out, what the next steps are in terms of marketing. because as I said, I have a seller who's very much like, what are you doing today to market my listing, right? That is who he is. And also I enjoy marketing. So I'm not mad at having to do this. Like I love it. So that's fine with me. Okay, I did have a little bit, I want to pull this up because there are other things that
Oh, before we get off of this,
yeah.
I had just one question on it. I'm looking at it as you're micro targeting just a particular neighborhood with this website.
Mhm.
And as you said, there's going to be a lot of follow up work involved, keeping it live and keeping it active for people. Would it be good to do, say, like a county? Like I'm in Manistee City, so would it be good to do like a Manistee things to do in Manistee County website that you're constantly doing that with, and you would draw not necessarily people that are just interested in that neighborhood, but anywhere in Manistee? Or am I getting too broad and not zeroing in the marketing enough?
So that's a good question. I think um as long as it's not just a page of events, right? So like there has to I would think that there would need to be some tie to life in the area or real estate in the area also because like I can find a website with a list of events in a second if I want to, right? So just like knowing living in Grand Rapids, there's like Grand Rapids, I don't even remember the website, but it's like Grand Rapids events coming up and it's a calendar and you can scroll through the calendar. So that exists elsewhere. So I think if you're going to create something that includes a larger area that's not necessarily neighborhood specific, but is like city specific, I would just want to make sure that there's enough there for them to actually show them what it's like living there. And I think that's kind of the difference between just having events and also having like, you know, recent sales, current sales, community things. Like my thinking was for the website, I would have let me pull up the list of ideas so that you can kind of see where I was going with
Okay.
things that I would include, and maybe that would be helpful. So,
So I think
and
if it was larger, you could then approach businesses about following you, doing regular posts on their own on there about specials that they have going on. Um,
sure.
and then you've got businesses in, oh yeah, Jim, he's a realtor in the area. Just somebody walking into their place say, oh yeah, go onto this website. Everything that's going on, and he's a realtor. I think he could help you out.
Yeah, anytime you can use cross promotion across social media with someone else, like a local business, absolutely. I would encourage you to do that. I think that's a great idea. How does cross promotion, how does that live on your website?
Um, you could you could give them sponsor ads that they can run on yours, either paying for it or just make it free.
Yeah.
But you can set up websites that they're going to be a sponsor to, and then they can run ads. So when people are on your website, their ads pop up.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
definitely an idea.
so
I
that might
have
be something to just get everybody helping everybody kind of a thing.
Sure. Yeah, I have no experience with someone paying to run ads on my website, so that's, I guess, not something I could speak intelligently about. Anytime I've seen stuff like I guess my thinking was like if it's going to be on your website, I think it should live in a video form. I guess that's where my mind was thinking. So like if it's going to be a business, like people do a lot on social media with like business spotlights. That's all over, right? So local business spotlights, property highlights, those types of things tend to live on social media. And a lot of the cross promotion that I see too is used across social media also, right? Because they want not only are you posting, but you're tagging someone else, you're collaborating with someone else, which means then it's being
Right.
posted on their account. So then you get access to all of their followers also. So I tend to
That
see
brings in a quick
more.
idea. I love your the card that you just put up there, but just before I shut up and let you go on, that brought up an idea of if a business wanted to be on your website, you could go to them and do a video of
Mhm.
you being in their business. And the more
Sure.
your face is seen, which is why we all stick it on our signs outside the houses. So that could be a cross market also that you go into their business, say, here I am at, blah, 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 sweet shop, and here's the owner, blah, 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 blah. But it gets you on the video. So that might be a thing to consider. Anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I think that yeah, there's definitely ways that you can do it and you can get creative and it's not like there's one right formula or one right way to do it, right? So you can tailor it to whatever works for you and what you find you get the best results with. Some of it is trial and error, right? Some of it is um trying something to see what kind of reaction it gets. I do think utilizing these same types of things can help push people to your website also on social. So like say for example you do like a listing spotlight or a neighbor spotlight or a business spotlight or whatever. And then in the video on social, you're tagging that business or that person, their audience is seeing it, and then the end of the video or the caption is pushing people to check out more about the neighborhood at xyandz.com. So again, pushing people to that website to see more. What's interesting about this, and a lot of these I've thought about before because I'm just like, okay, yes, create a neighborhood newsletter. Yes, people have talked about that for a long time. Facebook group is on here, but I'm not the biggest fan. Neighborhood home value reports, sure, obviously we've seen these, but I don't. But one that I thought was interesting was a meet your neighbor. So the reason that this resonated with me is that the neighborhood that I live in has a lot of people who've been there for 30, 40 years. Long time residents of this. And they all are people that when you talk to them have great stories, right? Of who they were prior to retirement, what they did, why they've been in this neighborhood, why they've stayed in this neighborhood for a long time. And so like giving people a platform to like emotionally connect to someone in the neighborhood who not only talks about who they are, but why they live there and what they love about it. That to me was an interesting angle that I hadn't seen done before. Okay, so either way, that's just something to mention. I do think, depending on how in depth I go with this, I think that I would do some of these meet your neighbors, right? Because I love the idea of actually putting humans behind a neighborhood, like having people that actually live there, I think is a really nice part of this. Another thing is I know, and this is like, it's what's specific to the neighborhood where you're actually trying to market to. So I know that like one of the neighbors has a backyard concert that they invite all the neighbors to every August. So that's absolutely something that I would highlight, right, on social and on a website because it's special to this neighborhood. Um, and so that's why it's hard when you're like, oh, well, I'm going to farm this neighborhood because I like the price point of this neighborhood. There are personal things that you just won't know. You just won't learn them. And so it's hard not to do very overview generic marketing because you don't know these little details and intricacies of that neighborhood. And so I guess my suggestion would be if you do have a listing in a neighborhood and you're like, okay, I have a listing here or a couple listings in one area or whatever it is, how can you learn more little details about the neighborhood to include in your marketing that actually emotionally tie to people as opposed to just like, hey, live in this neighborhood or hey, I just sold in this neighborhood. What can you do that's different than what other realtors have done there previously? Because we know lots of realtors are mailing things that say just listed or just sold, right? Or buyer seeking or whatever the case might be is lots of generic content is going out. So encouraging you to whatever it is you're going to do, stand out and do it a little differently. Moving on to the next slide here. Jim, which is kind of what you mentioned, which is number 5 on this, which is neighborhood business spotlights. Again, though, utilizing these videos that are created both for social media as well as on the website. So dual purpose, right? So if you're going to shoot a video, make sure that you can use that footage in both places. And so I know, like, in my opinion, like I have, there's a landscaping company, the owner lives in our neighborhood. It would be probably pretty great to highlight him. There's also this teenager who just graduated who has a car detailing that he does in his driveway. Also, probably a pretty great thing because people can just pull their car over to the neighbor's house and then you can get their car detailed, which is pretty convenient. Those types of things are what I'm thinking about. Annual community garage sale. This is something where I do think it's very helpful to get involved in. Even like, yes, you can promote it on social. Yes, you can create something. But for my neighborhood, I actually created a postcard and mailed it to all of the addresses within the neighborhood, letting them know the garage sales were coming up because it had only ever been posted on Facebook. If you are not on Facebook or you do not see it posted on Facebook, the neighbors in the area had no idea it was even happening, many of them. So just helping to coordinate those type of efforts again helps to start conversations. Another thing they're talking about is like, well, how can you host some sort of event to get people together? And they're saying, like food truck, ice cream, local, like, block party, right? Block parties, which are a wonderful way to get people together too. But again, that's probably going to be somewhat specific if you live in the area. I don't know that you can just pop into an area and say, I'm going to host a block party or a food truck thing here when you have no base in that neighborhood. Um, I also love the idea of welcome to the neighborhood packages. If someone moves into the area, you want to introduce yourself and start a conversation. And then community events calendar, honestly, which is pretty straightforward. Another interesting one I saw was like a neighborhood photo contest, sponsoring things you can for the neighborhood, whether they have, I don't know what that really looks like, but this is just some ideas. Backyard of the month, annual neighborhood report card, which again, pretty basic, but something that can be going as well as these other efforts. I love the idea of having specific drone footage for a particular neighborhood that is identifiable from a drone, right? So a lot of people use drone footage, especially on websites, but it can be pretty generic drone footage that's like they've either paid for or whatever, or it's just like of Grand Rapids or it's of Detroit or whatever it is. But like if you're centering on a specific neighborhood, having drone footage with identifiable markers that is actually that neighborhood, I think can be pretty great to use both on social as well as on a website. Neighborhood appreciation event we kind of already talked to. And then the neighborhood website. So those are kind of thoughts on if you wanted to build marketing around a particular neighborhood, whether or not you live there, but if it's someplace that you intend on wanting to continue farming, how you can try to put some efforts together to make it a little different than what other realtors mail.
Mary, I just
Yeah.
did, and Laura Campbell gave me the idea, so I'm not going to steal it from her, but
Yeah.
I just did a dump. I live in a neighborhood with a lot of homes, and I rented a dumpster and did a postcard that was like, hey,
Mm.
have your house ready to list,
Mhm.
whatever. My daughter did a catchy little cutesy postcard. We walked around, put it in the mailboxes. I got to chat with people that I hadn't talked to in a really long time or that I've never talked to. And then also, we just parked it in our driveway for 5 days and was like, dump whatever you want. We got rid of a crap ton of stuff out of our own house. Um, and so different times, like during the day, I would hear people
Out there
and
dumping stuff.
just walk out and be like, hey, oops, just like, hey, hi, I'm so glad you're utilizing this, whatever. It was interesting. I met a family that I've never talked to, and a couple of families I'd never talked to, but one was like, hey, I happened, blah, blah, blah. Turns out we like grew up one little town apart, knew
Love
my
it.
brother, it was really interesting. So it was $500 for 5 days. I probably could have done a smaller one. Um,
Okay.
that was like 350, but we had a lot of stuff to get rid of too. So I was kind of like, well, I'm going to spend
Yeah.
250 bucks
Yeah.
on my own crap. But I think I want to do it every year because I had great response and
Can
people that
you
didn't even drop anything off. I had seen them out and about and was like, that was such a good idea. Are you going to do it again? Because if you are, I'm going to be ready next summer. Or
So, can you tell me, can you go through how did you market it? What are all the things you did to market to let people know this was happening?
so on our neighborhood Facebook page, we have a neighborhood Facebook page. And so I posted it like, hey, I'm FYI next week, just like a normal post. And then my daughter made a really cute postcard that,
Okay.
had a little garbage can in it and was really cute. And we walked around the neighborhood
Mhm.
and put them in
Great.
all the mailboxes. And then I took a picture of that and posted it the Sunday before the garbage thing was coming. Like, hey, it's going to be here Monday through Friday. I don't know what time it'll get picked up or delivered.
Mhm.
We'll keep you posted. And then on Monday, I posted, it's here with like a picture of it in my
Great.
driveway.
Great.
And then on Thursday night, I sent out another one and said, hey, it's getting full, but she's got some room. And I think that they're coming tomorrow. And I don't know what time they'll be here. So if you have stuff, and that's where a neighbor, because it
Mm.
had like my phone number on it too, and he texted me, he was like, do you think there's room for
Great.
16 pieces of trim? And I'm like, absolutely. And I walked outside and said, can I help you unload it? There was a
Mhm.
couple of ladies in our neighborhood that I saw pull up their, SUV, and I was like, "What do you got out there? Let me out." And they're like, "Oh no, it's fine." And I'm like, "No, seriously, it'll take me 2 minutes. Like I'm counting this as my exercise this week." And
Good. Yeah.
dumped their whatever old broken
Amazing.
kitchen,
Do
whatever.
you think time of year wise? Because I think that's a great idea too. And
I would have done
hindsight,
it 2 weeks earlier,
so mid-May or early May or what?
early May, because I think that's when people are getting their, because there was a
Spring
lot of
cleaning.
grad spring cleaning, and there was a
Mhm.
lot of grad like families,
Mm,
like
parties coming
Maria
up.
Aaron said, I wish I would have
Yeah.
saw that because
Yes.
we had a grad
Yep.
party the same weekend as the dumpster, and she was like, "Darn it, if I would have known that was coming, I wouldn't have driven to the dump or whatever." So I feel like next year I'll do it maybe like
Okay.
the second weekend of May or
That's
something
good to
like that.
know. I think that's a great idea. I know someone else who did that. They didn't park the dumpster at their home. So I've heard it done a couple different ways. I like the idea of parking it at your home and doing your neighborhood because it's a lot less distance that people need to travel with their junk to dump it, right? But I
Mhm.
do know people who have done it for their clients and they've parked a dumpster someplace a little more public where they were able to have a dumpster. I've also know people who've done like shredding events where it's like, hey, bring
Yeah.
your stuff to get shredded, not necessarily at their home. I do think time of year matters. I was actually thinking about this, and in hindsight, I wish that I had had a dumpster day set up for the day after the garage sale because then
Oh,
anyone in the neighborhood who didn't sell stuff, whatever it was, and didn't want to have to put stuff back into their home, would have been able to just come over and dump it off. And I'm like, that maybe would have been like that one little extra bit. But either way, I think that that's a great idea. I really do.
yeah. I really felt like I was surprised because our neighborhood, like, there's like I think 120 houses and stuff, but I don't know everybody on the other side. But like I saw somebody at D&W, no idea who they are, none.
Yeah.
But they were like, "Oh my God, that dumpster was such a great idea. Are you going to do that every year? Because next year I'm going to be ready." I just didn't have my, and I thought, "Oh yeah." I said, "Oh yeah, for sure." And I'm thinking, I don't know their name, but they were like, "Hey, Leslie." So I think from all the, there's only, I mean, you put your name on it every single time with your face, people start to
Oh yeah.
recognize you or whatever. So anyway,
Yeah.
I thought it was a great $575 well
Yeah.
spent. Like I said, if we didn't have so much of our own crap, we probably could have done a little bit smaller
Smaller.
one. But I feel
Yeah.
like if I get one sale out of it this year or one person that's like, "Oh, what about Leslie in the neighborhood?" It was worth it. Plus I got rid of my junk.
That is always the mindset I think is like if I get one deal out of all of the marketing efforts that I put into this neighborhood, not it will have paid for itself and made a little extra, right? One deal. So I agree, and I actually think that $500, knowing you could have gone a little smaller and that you were able to dump some of your own stuff too, is a really affordable way to encourage people to come out. Also, then people now know where you live. And so every time they pass your home, they're like, oh, that's where the realtor Leslie lives that does the dumpster event. Like there's starting to be that like recognition in their minds so that then when they receive something from you in the mail or whatever it looks like, there's that tie to where you are, which is really smart.
So,
Um,
can I interject?
yeah.
I'm going to be the little, not the devil's advocate because I'm
Okay.
not, all these ideas are great, but not everyone and not every realtor lives in a neighborhood.
Sure. Yeah.
And yet we still have a neighborhood. So
Mm-hmm.
I still have neighbors, but we're not in a neighborhood. So I have been trying to figure out these kinds of ideas and how I could make it feel more like a neighborhood of these people who aren't in a neighborhood, or in a designated, I mean, planned neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love all these ideas, but I could never rent a dumpster because nobody's going to come bring their
Oh.
stuff. I live on Cascade Road. Nobody's going to come and bring their stuff and stop. I have nowhere to park, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
So I am trying to figure out ways aside from, and I actually have some ideas. I've worked with the marketing team, so I actually have a semi plan in place. But I would like to know what could be that next step then to kind of make these people who live at this intersection, these 100 homes, whatever it is, feel like they're actually a community,
Mm-hmm.
like small little neighborhood community. That's what I'm trying to establish or figure out. And the same thing, like, oh yeah, that's where Cindy the realtor lives, you
Is
know.
there a name for is there a name for your, okay, no name. Do they do like a garage sale too? Is there a annual garage sale? No, so why don't you start one?
So, because first of all, the way that my house is set up, nobody there would they would be parking along Cascade Road and
Okay,
it's
so you couldn't
55
even
miles
get
an hour.
to. I
No,
see.
no, can't do that. And I
Okay.
have a long driveway. Nobody's going to haul their ass up my driveway. Sorry. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like potentially, maybe there's an area that we could actually block off a road and do a block party.
Right.
But do people do that anymore? I haven't seen those in years, and it would be great to revive that. So I guess I'm just trying to figure out well, I have several comments, but that's one thing that I would
Hmm.
like to
Hmm.
figure out and what maybe other people who don't live in a traditional neighborhood have done to kind of bring their community and make it feel like a neighborhood. Secondly, as far as the website goes,
Hmm.
there was a little bit of gray area in our conversation. It initially started out as like are we marketing a website just for a property, or then it turned into a website into a neighborhood. And I guess my thoughts are, and I loved all the ideas. I think they're all fabulous. My thought is if you have your own individual website that you then include some of these things into, such as pro property of the week, and then you have the link to take people there, or business of the week, or whatever. But otherwise, you're going to be managing that of all those things that you had on your card. The time it's going to take you to manage that neighborhood website is going to be another part-time job. Um,
Hmm.
so I mean, again, I'm being a little bit of the devil's advocate because I would love to be that face to recognize that somebody says, okay, let me go to her website because I know she'll have this on that website. That's all good and fine. But I guess my question is the purpose to be that person that everybody thinks of if they need to go find an event or what's going on here? Or is the purpose to actually show the value of you as a realtor and make them think of you that when they need something, they can go and say, oh, like, I wonder what the property is this week, just because people are curious, right? But then when they do actually start thinking about selling, or their neighbors talking about it, or their sisters talking about it, it's like, oh yeah, there's a realtor that I always follow. She always has the property of the week. Like, what can you do in your website to make you be that person that if you're then kind of sprinkling it onto your social pages or in your neighborhood groups, like, hey, come see, check out the property of the week, but they're going back to your website,
Hmm.
realtor.
So
Because
I
you want to
think
promote yourself as a realtor and not just limit yourself to just your neighborhood, even though it's a fabulous neighborhood.
I think two things can be true. I think that you can be positioning yourself as the resource in the neighborhood while also showing your value as a realtor. I don't think it has to be one or the other. And
I agree. I agree.
as long as you're not, so what I would do if it's like, okay, hey, I don't want to create a full-fledged neighborhood website, then use your main website and create one page on your main website that just highlights your neighborhood, right? And then there's going to be a specific URL that can point to that page that you can use on any marketing that you do to the neighborhood. So maybe it's Cindy Kozlowski slash Cascade or whatever that page is. It can just be a neighborhood spotlight or whatever it is. I think the only reason we talk about this is because leaning into niches tends to be a very good thing to do when it comes to marketing because so many realtors market, I work in Grand Rapids. I work in Ada. I work in whatever. Well, guess what? So do 3,000 other realtors. Okay. There are 3,000 realtors in this area of the state. So the reason behind it is I do think it's twofold. I wouldn't want it. I think you can use your main website for both, have a designated page to highlight your neighborhood and use the URL to that specific page for your marketing, while also not needing to feel like you need to create and maintain a separate other website altogether. So there are ways to do that. But I also think that, as with anything, if you don't feel like you have the time to commit to something that would be well maintained and done consistently, then don't do it. Right. So like if when I'm talking about a neighborhood website, We were talking about two things. So I was talking about a listing specific website, right, for one particular property, but I was also talking about a neighborhood website. So the reason that I was talking about both of them though is because they just happen to be one and the same. Like the listing is in the neighborhood I'm trying to market. So when I create this listing website, it is going to be a page on the neighborhood website. So it is going to be one page on the neighborhood website so that I can not only push people to that listing, but then also they're encouraged to click around to see what else life is like in that neighborhood. But if you feel like it would be too much work because you're like, okay, well, I'm going to have to upload the listings there. I'm going to have to upload the past sales there. I'm going to have to upload the community events. There are things you can do. It costs money, but there are things you can do where you can pull specific feeds from other sites automatically so that you're not required to be manually updating this information on a regular basis, right? So you could pull a feed of events from the GR whatever website, right? You could pull a feed there. You could pull a feed from, I mean, there's an IDX where you can only show a specific zip code on your website if you want to, right? So there are ways to set up automation for some of it. But I do think that leaning into a niche, if possible, can be very beneficial for your business. But yeah, I do hear what you're saying. And the fact that you don't live in like, here's the neighborhood boundaries and we're called this and this is our neighborhood definitely complicates things. But I guess if I was like, I actually really want to start marketing this neighborhood and I really want to connect with people, I would probably find the closest park to my house and I would host something there. That's probably what I would do.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing,
Yeah.
the last point that I can't see her name on the screen right now that Cindy just made.
Cindy. Mhm.
One reason it's value to work, right, is what you're going at. I got to maintain two websites. That's a lot of extra work. What value am I seeing for that? The value of the second website I would see as you can present yourself as not a realtor because some people won't go to a website that they know is a realtor's website because it's just going to be sales. It's just they already have these preconceived notions. But however, if you're marketing at something that, hey, here's what's going on in the area or a different value to people, they get there, then you let them know there's a way to get your realty website. So you might pull in more visitors that are wary of realtors or salespeople going into an informational website. So it might get you a whole new group of people. That might be the value in having two and then automating, as she said, your posts so they go to both sites and not have to worry about doing individual posts. That gets you your value back for work effort in. I would just a thought and a suggestion.
Good points. Yes, thank
The
you.
other thing too is I've definitely seen people use social media as opposed to a specific website to create accounts for particular neighborhoods. So that could be one that's a little less um like you could very easily keep that one updated by creating a video or creating a this or creating a post and be creating an Instagram or a Facebook account for that particular neighborhood as opposed to going and like creating a separate website. So that's just something to lean into. And then you can also tag a location. You can be at a local business. You can like do those things. So wow, I can't believe we talked about this the whole time. I had so much more, you guys. I had so much more that I will save for the next time. But either way, I do think there's a really good way to leverage yourself in the neighborhood by using and also social is just like a whole other world. I know many realtors who do this who are like, okay, I'm gonna highlight this neighborhood. This is where I work. This is where I live. This is what I post about. These are the businesses I show. And so it's being done on social more, I would say more commonly than a website built for that. But I think that and another thing, Cindy, which I was thinking was like the reason that that came to mind was like, okay, say you build a website for your neighborhood. Well, just have the feed from your Instagram pull in automatically to the website, and then it's automatically pulling in your new listing video. It's automatically because everything you post on social is going to automatically pull in there, right? So there would be less maintenance, manual maintenance behind the scenes of updating stuff because you've had feeds pull in. I guess that's where what my head was thinking. Okay, we only have 5 minutes left. So we'll use these 5 minutes. If anyone has questions or anything else that they'd like to bring up, um, anybody else want to talk about something else quickly before we're done?
I have a question, but it doesn't have to do with something else.
Great, go ahead.
Okay, so we have a cottage on Selkirk Lake, which is just by Gun Lake. And a few cottages down is going to be on the market in like the next month and a half. And my husband and I are going back and forth about like having a barbecue. So then, because I'm not representing it,
Mm.
but we were thinking about having a barbecue and like taking people on boat rides and everything. Do you think that's a good idea?
I will say anytime you can get people together like that and showcase where you live is a great idea. Because just because you're
Okay.
not listing the home doesn't mean you might not spark someone's interest that would want to buy the home because they see what life could be like if they lived there. Also, anytime you can get people together in general, just to be having conversations, I would always say yes. Always.
Okay, because I was thinking about going to the Gun Lake Casino and spreading word that way because there's thousands of people that go in there day and night.
Sure. Yeah. How would you spread the word there?
I know a few employees. They're
Oh,
friends of mine that are car dealers that deal with the resort, that run the pool. So yeah, I'm gonna have them spread it more than me.
yeah. I think keeping in mind that 96% of people are on Zillow and that's where they're looking. We know this. So setting just being aware that like, okay, most people are seeing this through Zillow or they have a realtor who set them up on a search and I'm going to get notified when something that matches the criteria for what I'm looking for comes on the market. But I think, and honestly, it might not be that you have this party and you take them on a boat ride and you do a barbecue and they see this listing. It might not be that you have a buyer for that particular listing, but what it can do is drum up better relationships and conversations, and you might learn of people who are looking to buy or sell elsewhere. Because it's just being around other people and having conversations in general, not necessarily like, oh, I'm going to find a buyer for this particular listing, but instead just being around other people, which is always going to benefit you when you work in real estate.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Okay, 10:57. That's it. We focused on one thing and that's totally fine because that's where the conversation took us. So some of the other things that I put together, I will save for next time. I don't know that I'm going to have one of these in July because it would fall on the week of the 4th of July, which is kind of a dead zone for many, many people. So probably the next one will be in August. But as always, if you need anything, I am here. So everyone have a wonderful day and thank you for coming. Bye, guys.